Breaking news. Shams Charania reports the Memphis Grizzlies tell him they will not be bringing back Dillon Brooks under any circumstances.
Under any circumstances?
Under any circumstances. They will not be re-signing Dillon Brooks this offseason.
Well,
I mean, I think he's an important role, but he's a lot of money. It could be a money factor. I'm not involved in the money aspect of the offseason. I save that for the hardcore basketball fans that are so hardcore as fans that they know exactly how front office business dealings take place.
I don't want to know.
I stay out of that. I'm not smart enough to know how to do that, and so I don't get involved in that. All I know is how, as many good basketball players that can contribute at a high level on my team at once. And it seems like that the Grizzlies do not see some value in re-signing Dillon Brooks this offseason, at least in terms, presumably, of the financials of it all.
Right.
And I think Desmond Bane steps up in a big way to play defense in that role. I think he's capable of doing that. I think we've seen that grow starting year 2. Honestly, he played defense at a high level. That's going to be a big hole that you're going to have to fill in some regard this offseason, whether it be with depth if you want Luke Kennard to step up to a starting role. I've heard people say, well, Zaire maybe will be able to step up in that role.
Whew.
That's a worse basketball team. I'm just telling you right now, it's a worse basketball team in that way. And I think you're going to see the value of Dillon Brooks as teams line up to sign him. And he's going to get a lot of money in free agency.
He is. I'm reading the story from Shams that was just posted on The Athletic about this, the one that was linked to that breaking news. The second paragraph says, after his tumultuous end of the season, Brooks was told about the Grizzlies' decision to move on and exit meetings with team officials in recent days. Those sources said Memphis and Brooks discussed in exit meetings that it would be best for both sides to have a fresh start.
It could be. It really could be. In terms of what the statement says itself, that probably is a good idea. Dave Wolosh and I, not to betray any confidence, we're talking before his show started, talking about whether or not a public outcry should be a factor in the decision-making of a general manager or a front office. I don't have enough experience within a fan base or living in a city as an adult.
Right.
Dave referenced multiple times in other markets where a public outcry has resulted in a player going away.
Sure.
Perhaps that's happening here. Or perhaps I overestimate what Dillon Brooks' value is. Maybe I don't know it as much as I think I do, which is a certain possibility as well. But I've got a really good feeling the teams are going to be lining up to see this guy sign.
I think so.
And I don't think necessarily the narrative will change in the city. Like if let's say he goes to Dallas and has success as a perimeter defender in Dallas and does a great job. He does exactly what they ask him to do. He plays defense at a Defensive Player of the Year caliber level. And guards the best player on the other team every night, just like he did in Memphis. Yeah. And Dallas maybe sees his value in that regard. I don't think you're going to see Grizzlies fans, people that live in this city, watching so much Dallas Mavericks basketball that their perception of who the player is going to change.
They're like, oh, we messed up on this one.
Yeah, I don't think that's ever going to happen. I also think that the Grizzlies are a good basketball team. I think they're one of the most well-coached teams in the league, despite what people are saying about Taylor Jenkins. And I also think that they have a certain amount of deficiencies that already exist that are overcome or hidden well in regular season basketball.
Right.
So I don't think it's going to be – I don't think regular season wins are going to be marginally diminished to the point where fans are going to be like think they were wrong to not re-sign Dillon Brooks. It'll be a lot like the DeAnthony Melton thing where fans are going to be parading around the street saying, you guys thought we needed Melton. We didn't need DeAnthony Melton.
3 months into the season when the Grizzlies are sitting in third place.
2 seed in the West. But I think when it comes to playoff basketball, you could see that absence rear its ugly head again next season. Yeah. Or maybe not. We don't know what they're going to do this offseason. Only time will tell in that regard. But Dillon Brooks ain't going to be on the team anymore. Yeah. That's a significant change in the makeup of the roster.
I mean, he's been a vital part of the team for the last 4 or 5 years. But, I mean, Kleiman said in their exit interviews with the media that they were going to be extremely aggressive this offseason. So I guess this frees up some money to go and
sign a free agent.
Yeah, try to sign somebody. So it'll be interesting. I have, we talked about yesterday. This might have been on Sports Time when we actually were talking about it. But I'm seeing, even this morning before, and I'm sure there will be more once this becomes the headlines and people start talking about it. I'm seeing each and every day more talk about getting rid of Tyus Jones.
Trading him, you're saying?
Trading him, yes.
Interesting. I wonder why.
I guess because
that has to just be fan discourse, right?
Gotta be.
So
it's
what is
mainly
so
fans.
So what's the
on
reason?
Twitter.
So what's the reason?
I'm guessing it's playoff. Every time I see something, it's he didn't show up again in a playoff game. It's a big contract. You could trade that to somebody else and get something. So.
Well, I think there's something to be said for that, but you start taking pieces away here and there. I think the biggest misconception about the NBA is what I said yesterday when I asked you a very generic question and then answered it myself because I thought it was too broad of a question to ask, is the biggest narrative around the NBA and these teams that you're a fan of. It's a star-driven league.
Yeah.
They're not talking about Austin Reeves. Austin Reeves isn't going to be a factor in this series. It's LeBron and AD and what they bring to the table. It's the star-driven league. So, I think a lot of people will have the misconception that as long as you have Jared and Ja, the Grizzlies are good, man.
Right.
And it's just not.
Well,
that might be the way you make the playoffs.
Right.
That might be the way you start building a team. But it's not the way if you're actually serious. Sorry. A small market team like the Grizzlies is not going to win an NBA championship.
Right.
I mean, it's not going to happen. I hate to say it. I cheer for your team. I hope they do well down the road. And you never know, there could be a flash in the pan situation. Maybe you get a generational talent player. Maybe you draft a Luka.
Right.
Maybe you draft Steph. Maybe you draft LeBron.
Giannis.
Maybe you draft Giannis.
Right.
But just odds are, a small market team like the Grizzlies are not going to compete for a championship. And so, when you start dismantling a roster that you think, theoretically, fully healthy, 2 seed in the West, has a chance to compete for a championship, I think you might be getting a little too cute. Not the front office.
Right.
I'm not down the front office. I'm just saying a fan perspective of let's trade Tyus.
Well,
we don't need Dillon.
Yeah.
We don't need Melton. Star-driven league. Let's get this guy. Let's get that guy.
And it
I think
seems
you might
like a lot of the people.
And how many free agents have the Grizzlies ever signed?
It's great.
None. No one's
Great
coming
point.
to play in Memphis. This is not going to happen.
One, it feels like, at least on Twitter, that a lot of the guys you talk about it being a star-driven league, it seems like a lot of the targets that people want are young stars that are making a name for themselves in other markets. And I just don't think, like you said, I just don't think you can get those guys here. Maybe trade for them, but I don't know if you can do that if those teams are going to want to give those guys up.
I'm just going to go down the line here on Spot Rack.
Yeah.
NBA free agents this offseason, restricted, unrestricted. I'm not going to clarify either way. I'm just going to list them out.
Just free agents, yeah.
And these are listed in order of how much they're getting paid this season.
Okay.
Not that, for instance, Russell Westbrook is the first name on this list. Not to say he's going to make $47 million on his next deal.
But that's
just
just
what they're listed at right now, okay? Russell Westbrook, James Harden, Chris Middleton, Kyrie Irving, D'Angelo Russell. These aren't wings. These are just guards.
Right.
I'm just going
down
anybody
the
that plays 1 through 3.
Right.
Fred VanVleet, Harrison Barnes, Jeremy Grant, kind of a 4, but I'll give him a wing.
Sure.
Karis LeVert, who is making more than Dillon Brooks. Gary Trent Jr., who's also making more than Dillon Brooks. Malik Beasley. It looks like he's more restricted. Will Barton. Kyle Kuzma. Jordan Clarkson. Josh Hart. Kelly Oubre. Josh Richardson. Dylan Brooks. Taylor Horton-Tucker. Alec Burks. Jay Crowder. Victor Oladipo. Bruce Brown. Danilo Gallinari. Joe Ingles, Lonnie Walker, Rudy Gay, Kobe White, Kendrick Nunn, Rui Hachimura. I'll stop there. Torrey Craig. I'll name Torrey Craig too. So these are Cam Johnson for the Nets, but it looks like that's very restricted as well.
Right.
So you got a lot of free agents in those names, guys going at all different levels of money. I don't think it's the strongest case in the world to replace what Dillon Brooks did.
Right.
Maybe you could replace it with Desmond Bane and get another player, and then you have a whole new makeup. Taylor Jenkins is smart enough. He's not hamstrung by the roles that the players that he had played. He put them in those roles to be most successful as who they are.
Yeah.
So it's not to say there isn't a offense or defensive scheme that one could design with new players, but it looks like all the facts we have to go with now is they're not going to sign Dylan Brooks again this offseason.
It's interesting. So I guess they'll, maybe they'll go out and sign somebody. But out of those names, there's not a lot that fit the criteria of that would come to Memphis and that would make an impact.
Well, at the trade deadline, everyone wanted Gary Trent Jr.
Yeah.
His money, I would imagine, he was already making more than Dylan Brooks. I would imagine his money either stays the same or it goes up a certain degree. Maybe over 20. He was making 17. He'll go over 20. I imagine Dylan Brooks makes over 20 next year.
Sure.
So if I'm looking at 20 players that made 20 last year that are free agents, it's like Harrison Barnes, Jeremy Grant, Karis LeVert. Now we're getting a whole discussion.
Right.
I probably should look through all this stuff first before we do. But it just literally just broke as we started the show.
It's breaking news. Can't do anything about
Kuzma
that.
making 13 last year. He played a good role in Washington. Sure. He seems fairly happy in Washington. He was defending the team when the playoffs started, when people were talking about him and the Wizards specifically. I don't know. I would imagine they have plans to re-sign him.
Yeah, he probably stays there. He seems kind of like their guy right now, at least.
And I don't see anything within the current structure of the team to replace. It's a tough loss.
It is. But I think you're going to see a completely different discourse from Grizzly Twitter of, great, let's move on. This is a good thing. Finally, the front office is moving on from Dylan.
If people even see the value in what he did. Like I said, I think there's a big narrative out there that all these guys don't matter. Because if you look at other teams.
Well, they're not the stars. It's like you said.
Here's the thing about being a fan of the NBA. We were supposed to talk about the Suns, Nuggets, and Celtics Sixers here.
Oh, we got 2 hours. We can
maybe do that later.
Yeah.
The thing about being a fan in the NBA is how heavily or the relative importance that we assign to Tyus Jones didn't come up big enough in these playoff series. DeAnthony Melton last year, he didn't make enough shots.
Right.
We can't have that. We have to have that. He's too important to not have that going.
Yeah.
How many shots did we want what's his face to take? Shooter
Kennard.
Luke Kennard to take in the playoffs.
Like 15.
He was only taking 4. He's got to shoot more. We need 3-point shooting. He's got to shoot more. But we'll look at other teams as the fans of any franchise, but specifically the Grizzlies, and say, well, Tobias, he's like a 4 on a team. He's not that good. Josh Okogie, he's trash. We don't want Josh Okogie.
Yeah.
But he's a starter on the Suns. So we don't attribute relative importance to starters on certain other teams.
Right.
Chris Paul is trash. I know that one gets blown out of proportion sometimes, but we don't assign relative importance to players that start on other teams.
Right.
Yet your own team, you see the 10th man on the team
You
play,
need him to step up.
Our guys are better than other teams' guys.
Oh, yeah.
And so I think when you get into this offseason situation, I think that you might see a lot of inflated importance given to players that are currently on the Grizzlies roster.
Yeah.
And maybe not enough importance to pending free agents and stuff of that matter. You do have trade capital in Tyus Jones, but I think the franchise probably sees
his value
in a backup point guard.
Yeah.
I don't know what they're going to do.
It's going to be an interesting offseason for sure.
Yeah, it certainly shakes up the makeup of the team. Whereas if you say they're going to be fine, if you believe they're going to be fine, which they might be, you're just a fan talking. Because how could you possibly know what they're going to replace that with? The makeup of the team and the schemes they'll run are going to be totally different, presumably.
Well, and
so how could you possibly know they're going to be okay?
And like you
just
said,
fandom talking.
Yeah, and like you said, I mean, you don't have any track record to look back on and be like, well, look, this is the free agent they brought in 2 years ago, or this is what they did last year. There's nothing to look back on, so you have nothing to be to point in your direction. Well, we know we're going to be fine because this is what the front office did last year in free agency or the year before in free agency.
Who's the biggest free agent the Grizzlies have ever signed?
Ever? I don't even know.
I was going to say Jeff Green, but they traded for him.
Yeah.
I don't know who that would be.
I don't know. I mean, there hasn't been any really splashy free agent signings.
They don't get free agents.
No. But it's always the talk of we're going to get this guy, we're going to get that guy, we're going to get that guy.
People want to play on the 2 seed in the West. People want to compete for a championship.
People want to play with Ja.
People want to play with Ja and Jaren.
Yeah.
It's malarkey.
People want to play in Los Angeles.
It's bullcrap.
In New York.
It's bullcrap. Yeah. It really is. And maybe they want to play in large markets less than they ever have.
Sure.
But they also want to play where someone's paying.
Right.
And there's literally no track record of signing free agents for the Grizzlies. I think I don't know who they're going to sign.
I don't either.
So just like I said, if you think they're going to be okay, you're playing your fandom.
Mm-hmm.
If I sit here and say I'm worried about what's going to happen, it's just because I don't know what's going to happen, which makes me worried and concerned about it.
Well, I mean,
but I can't say they're not going to be okay because I don't know what they're going to replace it with.
But if you think they're fine, I want to know who you think they signed.
Yeah, if you think they're fine, text us 901-360-8255.
Tell us who they're going to sign.
Who do you think they're going to sign? Or am I crazy and really it's a star-driven league and John and Jaron are all that matters? Two players that can't guard the basketball. I don't get it, man.
I mean, it's crazy.
I can't say it's crazy. I can't say it's crazy. Because, like I said, I don't know what they're going to replace it with.
That's right.
And I honestly believe that Desmond Bane can fill the primary defender role just as well as Dylan Brooks did, and also bring more on the offensive end to the point that I think he should initiate every offensive possession.
Yeah.
But you have to have a defensive player replace Dylan.
I think it's more crazy to me, the wording of they're not going to re-sign him on any terms.
Yeah, what if he wanted to take the same contract? You wouldn't re-sign him for the same contract?
What if you can't go, you try to reach out to other free agents, nobody's biting, and Dylan's like, I'll come back for basically the same amount of money.
Would
no
you
way still say no?
There was no. That's a great hypothetical because I don't think there's any way he comes back for the same money. But to say no circumstances,
that would include that.
A circumstance would be he comes back for the same money. I don't get it.
And to say no, that's crazy.
I don't get it.
But we'll see. I mean, like you said, we don't know what they're going to do this free agency.
And I also think him talking and like his persona. Maybe it's a locker room concern.
Maybe, but it doesn't seem like it's a locker room concern.
I'm not privy to that information.
Right.
And I'm not sure anybody else that talks on our airwaves, other airways, or is a fan of the Grizzlies and tweets on Twitter or anywhere else is privy to that information. So it just irks you that he's talking. And the fact that your opinion of your favorite basketball team could be colored by a player's persona and not what he does on the court and the contribution he makes on the court, I would say that you should absolutely reassess the way that you judge the players on your favorite basketball team.
Yeah.
Because I don't think you're doing yourself any services by allowing an off-court persona or what you think their chemistry may or may not be. It just seems imaginary to me, an imaginary made-up narrative. But we'll see. I do think, though, one thing I will say with certainty, teams are going to be lining up to sign Dylan Brooks, and I'm going to make damn sure that I'm going to clip every great defensive play he makes starting on day one of the season and show it to everybody that'll listen and look at it to make sure everybody knows just how much you misjudged Dylan Brooks. David Cobb, next.
Be sure to follow us at Sports56 WHBQ on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube to watch live video of our shows, stay up to date with station events, and have chances to win prizes. Don't miss out on anything that's going on. Follow us at Sports56 WHBQ.
I'm Gary York. I'm the service director at Lexus of Memphis. Our service department wants to be more than just a place where you get your oil changed. We do glass repair, windshield replacement, recalibration of your camera and sonar systems, even wheel repair, tire replacement, all the things you would expect from a luxury automotive dealer. Please check out our website. You can schedule your appointment, check out our specials, hours of operation, or if you'd like to do it in person, please reach out to one of our associates at 901-271-5199.
Is your check engine light on? Let our professional parts people scan and diagnose the problem for free. Stop by O'Reilly Auto Parts.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Without the ones like you, who work tirelessly to keep things running, everything would suddenly stop. Hospitals, factories, schools, and power plants, they all depend on you. No matter the weather, emergency, or time of day, you're the ones who get it done. At Grainger, we're here for you with professional-grade industrial supplies. Count on real-time product availability and fast delivery. Call, clickgrainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Hi, Hi, this is Lauren Choate with Choate's Air Conditioning, Heating, and Plumbing. Did you know Willis Carrier invented the modern air conditioning system in 1902? Since then, a lot has changed, but one thing that hasn't is being comfortable in your home. Choate's prides itself in creating the most comfort possible with each one of our customers' HVAC systems we install. We believe the best system on the market today is the Carrier Infinity system. It has the ability to save up to 50% or more on your utilities compared to your existing HVAC system, and is tailored to enhance your comfort with its state-of-the-art green speed technology. Right now, Carrier is offering up to 72 months, no interest financing, or rebates of up to $1,650 on a new Carrier Infinity system. Don't miss this limited time offer to have a more comfortable home. Give us a call today at 347-8086 or visit us at choateshvac.com for more information. Turn to the experts with Choates. And remember, let our family serve your family.
At Jason's Deli, when you're dining in or picking up curbside, you can expect wholesome food and no surprises, just delicious sandwiches, crisp salads, and quick quality meals made with the freshest ingredients and no artificial trans fats, MSG, high fructose corn syrup, or artificial colors and dyes. Around here, a lot of thought goes into what we put into our food and what we take out of it, because you're not just taking a bite, you're getting a taste of who we are. New items are constantly being created to expand our menu for all tastes and special diets with vegan and gluten-free options available. Convenience and on-time delivery you can count on. It's just a click away at jasonsdeli.com, so whether you need to feed 5 people or 5,000, the team at Jason's Deli, they have the credentials and the commitment to keep you satisfied. Freshness is nearby at Jason's Deli with locations at Ridgeway in the Park Place Center, Poplar and Highland, Germantown Road in Cordova, and on Goodman Road in Olive Branch. Jason's Deli. It's wholesome food and no surprises.
All the wisdom of the universe is in these bones.
Now back to Sports 56 Happy Hour on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM. Here once again, Johnny Radio.
Did I say that John wasn't here today?
I don't know.
I think we just got right into Dylan.
Yeah.
We just got right. John's not here.
He's at Jazz Fest.
He's in New Orleans at Jazz Fest this week, so Jay Morgan Harder and Brian Takis are sitting in for him this week, and I think that's the last time I'll say our names today. But we're joined by probably my favorite guest on these airwaves every week. T-Money and Brasky are great too, though. But I love David Cobb. He joins Sports Time every week on Mondays, and he joins John every week at 11:30 on Tuesdays. David, thank you so much for talking to the B team today. We really appreciate it. And I just want to give I just told you this on the phone. I want to give the audience a heads up. David, we talk to you all the time. I talk to you twice a week now at this point, just talking on the phone. And I feel like I don't know enough about you, the man. And so Bryant has a lot of questions regarding your topics of writing college football and college basketball, but I just want to ask you some personal questions.
Get to know David
Do
Cobb.
you want to go first with a question on topic, Brian, or you want me to go first?
Why don't you go first?
I'll kick us off then here, David. So, David, you have worked, make sure I'm right on this, you've worked as a beat writer for the University of Tennessee and the Memphis Grizzlies, and now CBS Sports covering college football and college basketball, correct?
Yeah, and of course, I'm just glad that John's okay. Like, anytime y'all tell me, oh, John's not in today, my first reaction is, oh, no, what happened?
That's a fair reaction.
So to hear that he's just, like, on vacation and enjoying himself, one, I'm really very relieved because, yes, one thing you omitted from my bio, Jay, is that, in fact, I was a Sports 56 intern in the summer of 2013. So coming up on my 10-year anniversary of that occasion, and John was essentially like, basically he was my internship coordinator, as wild as that may seem. But I spent most of that internship in the production booth with Johnny Radio himself. So, yeah, an important part of the resume there, in addition to my writing exploits.
A very important part, and no one coordinates interns like Johnny Radio, that's for sure. So you've worked here as an intern, you've covered the University of Tennessee, you've been a beat writer for the Grizzlies, and now you're covering college football and college basketball. Which of those jobs have you enjoyed? Obviously, monetary concerns aside, which of those jobs did you enjoy the most and why?
Well, they're all different. Another one that I got to do that was pretty cool was I was an associate reporter for MLB.com for the summer in 2015, and I got to cover the Cardinals basically every day at Busch Stadium, at least certainly every home game, which is wild when you think about the fact that Major League Baseball, oftentimes they'll have 10-game homestands, and that's 10 games in 10 days or 10 games in 11 days. And you get to the ballpark so early because they open up the locker room for media availability before the game. You got to be there in advance of that, and then you got to stay in right after the game. Those are really, really long days. So I would say just in terms of like the grind or like the intensity of it, like the Major League beat is, I would say, pretty much by far the most intense. But I think for me, like just getting the Vols beat job a couple of years out of college was like the most significant thing for me personally. And I really enjoyed actually getting to cover the team full time. That had kind of been my goal, and that was sort of my big break. So I would say that's probably the one I reflect on most fondly because like I was only on the Grizzlies beat for a year and a half, and it was a big year and a half because they traded Marc Gasol, they parted with Mike Conley, they drafted Ja Morant. So all that happened while I was on the Grizzlies beat, but I was hardly there long enough to feel like I was, really a part of it.
Yeah. Well, I want to ask you a college football related question because
dueling interviews.
That's right, dueling interviews. I'm asked the tough questions. Jay's gonna ask the personal questions. So, the Big 12 is exploring basketball and football games in Mexico. The Houston Chronicle reported, which is weird to see the Houston Chronicle reporting Big 12 news now that the Houston Cougars are in that conference. They say they want to target games in 2024, 2025 in the Monterrey's Estadio BBVA, nicknamed the Steel Giant. What do you think about having college football and basketball games down in the Steel Giant?
I don't think it makes any sense at all, to be honest. Because you think about professional sports, when they go overseas, they're trying to grow the game in the international markets and trying to pick off fans from international markets, which is practical. I mean, look at Asia and how bonkers China and even Japan now are for the NBA.
Yeah.
And like in Latin America, Major League Baseball has a serious appeal. They've tried to expand the NFL footprint into Europe, but you're never, if you live in Mexico, what's going to make you be a Houston Cougars fan? That's just random. That doesn't make any sense, to be honest with you. So, I mean, unless there's some huge alumni base of Houston grads in Mexico City that I don't know about, like, I don't really understand what we're doing here because I don't see a day either. Like, again, another reason why the pro leagues go and play overseas games. It's like, well, what if we expand overseas at some point? What if there's a Major League Baseball team in Mexico City, which has been discussed, right? Well, that makes sense. You want to grow the game there, but are we going to allow the University of Mexico City to get into the Big 12? That seems far fetched. So I don't really understand it, to be honest.
I mean, the University of Mexico City, I hear they've got a great football program. They would be a fine addition to the Big 12.
Right.
Expand the market, too. You get a whole
conference that's looking for expansion.
A whole new country to expand the conference to. That would be something else. Back to the personal questions here, David. I enjoyed your first one. Of all the jobs you've had, do you have a story? What's the most uncomfortable you have ever been in an interview or press conference setting? So I guess in a locker room, in a press conference, or just, I guess in your current job, you do more one-on-one situations. Most uncomfortable you've ever been talking to somebody?
Yeah, I mean, one time I famously congratulated Taylor Jenkins on getting his first ever technical foul, and he didn't laugh. And I guess the moment, like, it was just the wrong read of the situation, maybe on my part. He was otherwise, great to deal with, but that one went over like a ton of bricks. So I felt bad about that. I was on the news side for a while at the Times Free Press in Chattanooga, and like I had to go and interview the Secretary of Education, like at the end of the Obama administration. And that was uncomfortable for me because I was just like pinch hitting for our education reporter. And they had all these questions they wanted me to ask, like that pertain to like TCAP scores in Tennessee and stuff. And I'm like, this is not my wheelhouse. And we're talking about like a high ranking cabinet member here that I'm supposed to be like drilling with these like super important education questions. I would say that one's pretty far up there in terms of me being uncomfortable.
So what you're saying is the Secretary of Education did not have strong opinions about the job at the Tennessee football program at the time. I'm assuming Butch Jones was the coach, maybe.
Right, yeah, that was just out of my wheelhouse. Like, I pride myself on being versatile. And honestly, like, the news side of things is, like, so important to learn that skill set, because even when you're in sports, you end up having to deal with law enforcement agencies. You end up having to be able to decipher, political jargon. And if you're the team you're covering is trying to get a new stadium built, you have to know how to understand the city budget, right? Like we're seeing in Memphis now with the Forum being renovated.
Yeah.
And on top of covering free agency and whatever else is coming down the pipe, like, there's FedEx Forum renovations that the beat guys have to be up on now and stuff like that. So, like, to have that experience in news is really important, because you learn how to, like, interpret and decipher things just that are, outside of the statistical realm of sports and what the collective bargaining agreement of whatever league it is you cover.
David, I want to bounce back to basketball, college basketball, because I'm curious what you think of the job Rodney Terry has done this offseason. We saw him do a great job with that Texas team last year when he was inserted as the interim head coach. They took the interim tag off, but now in the offseason, five-star prospect Ron Holland has decommitted from the program, but he did add Max Asmus to the roster, who we know was a crazy scorer for Oral Roberts last year. So what do you think about this offseason, and how good do you think this Texas team can be next year?
Yeah, I think their nucleus is solid, but they got to fill out some pieces around them, because they've lost 2 5-star freshman commitments. Now, that sounds like a disaster, and it's not ideal, but you couch that against the fact that they've landed Max Asmus, who I have as my number 2 ranked transfer, and then they've got a big-time rim protector coming in as well in Caden Shedrick. So what it comes down to me for Texas basketball going into next season, and how we'll evaluate Rodney Terry's roster, is whether or not Tyrese Hunter and Dylan Mitchell withdraw from the draft and return to college. And it definitely sounds like Hunter will, but is Dylan Mitchell going to? If he does, then we're talking about a top 10 team with Texas going into next season, with Max Asmus, Tyrese Hunter, Dylan Mitchell, Dylan Dessou, those guys. That could be a really, really good team. As it is now, you look at Asmus, you look at Dessou, you look at Caden Shedrick, and you're like, okay, we've got the bones of the roster, but there's no real meat. So that's what I'm waiting on to make my final declaration on Texas. Is like, these next few weeks, not only for Texas but for several teams, are big with the NBA draft decisions, because there's over 200 guys, who have declared, and 3/4 of them will probably return to college. And if Texas gets those 2 guys back, then they're going to be on really solid footing for the first year of his tenure.
Talking to David Cobb from CBSSports.com. You should check out David's work. His most recent thing is updating his college basketball transfer rankings, and the transfer portal in full swing right now. I'm going to have to I'm breaking my own rules here in the dueling interviews, and I'm going to ask you a sports-related question, I'm afraid. But it has to do, I think we talked about it last week. You talked about it with John, and you definitely have talked about it on Sports Time since then. Rick Stansbury becoming an assistant coach at the University of Memphis now with Coach Penny Hardaway. I mean, a really good career at State, where he was never voted as Coach of the Year because I think the other coaches hated him. But he did. He had some good championship teams at Mississippi State. Jarvis Renardo's team comes to mind. Then he has precedent for being an assistant since then. He was Billy Kennedy's assistant at Texas A&M, I believe. What do you think is the angle surrounding Rick Stansbury being hired at Memphis this year after last 7-8 years at Western Kentucky?
Right. Well, first off, I'm kind of offended. I guess I wasn't interesting enough to continue down the personal question path there. So,
your work's so interesting.
David, I'm afraid. Full disclosure, I only have 2 more, and we've got too much time left. I'm afraid I was going to run out, and I had to ask you a Rick Stansbury question.
Okay, so yeah, the Stansbury hire is good. I mean, he's pretty seamlessly fills that Frank Haith role in my mind as a former head coach with a long track record in college basketball at multiple stops, who can be somebody that Penny leans on schematically, probably more so than anything, when the challenges of the season require Penny to, consult somebody with a little bit more experience at this level. I mean, Penny's now done it for several seasons and been fairly successful at it, but his staff has never been one that's just been inundated with collegiate experience. We talked about it yesterday, the idea that he's always tried to surround himself with the NBA guys, right? Because that was sort of the mold he wanted to build his program in. Well, that does have some drawbacks because the NBA game and the college game are so different now. Like, yes, it might help you recruit if you can tout how you have Rasheed Wallace or Sam Mitchell or Mike Miller or these guys who we've seen on his staff. But at the end of the day, those guys don't know the ins and outs of how to get things done in college basketball. And though Rick Stansbury's tenure at Western Kentucky ended, without a ton of success, the guy's been a head coach in the sport for like 25 years, and including, as you mentioned, at Mississippi State. So when somebody throws a junk defense at Memphis, or during the course of a season when their go-to actions kind of stop working or they can start to get scouted, Rick Stansbury is somebody that Penny can turn to bounce ideas off of for what might actually work schematically. So I think from that standpoint, it's big, and it continues this idea of like Penny sort of taking a somewhat more humble approach to being a college basketball head coach and saying, hey, I don't know everything. I need to surround myself with people who have seen some of the stuff in this sport.
Yeah. Well, sticking with the Tigers, because Coach Hardaway still needs to fill out his roster, I'm curious about Jaden Bradley, who visited Memphis probably 2 weeks ago now. Still haven't heard anything in terms of commitment. There's a lot of rumors going around that it could be a NIL situation right now. What should Tiger fans need to know about Jaden Bradley and what he did last year at Alabama, and what do you think the chances are that he commits to Memphis?
Yeah, I think they need to empty the bag for him, to be honest. He's one of the best guards available in the portal, certainly among those who I've seen that are considering Memphis or that Memphis is talking to. So, obviously, he's in high demand.
Yeah.
So it's not like you just wave a magic wand and get a guy of that caliber. But Memphis needs to make sure they're doing everything in their power to not let him get away, because they have such a big role to offer him. Or at least they should. Maybe it's as simple as this. Maybe it's all parties waiting to see what happens with Mikey Williams, because I'm sure that has an influence on the way Jaden Bradley perceives Memphis. Because if it's a situation where Mikey Williams isn't coming, then all of a sudden we're talking about Jaden Bradley being your number one or number two top offensive option. Whereas if Mikey Williams is coming, and Caleb Mills is going to be on the ball a lot too, well, maybe Jaden Bradley is seeing himself as maybe a third option in that situation. So to me, that's probably the deciding factor at this point, assuming the Memphis can offer him something pretty decent with NIL. Like, what would be the hang-up? And to me, it's the final determination on what his role is going to be. And that won't be evident until there's a resolution on Mikey Williams. So if I had to guess, I'd say that's probably the holdup there, because it seems to me like Mikey Williams comes, then maybe Jaden Bradley doesn't.
Yeah.
Off-season full swing for the Tigers.
Right.
Talking about Rick Stansbury, talking about recruits, and you can read David Cobb's stuff, CBSSports.com, his most recent story, like I said, college basketball transfer rankings, and amongst all of his other great stories he's written, that's the most recent one. Back to a personal question for you here, David. You've now covered sports at on a beat level where you're following one team, kind of hyper local, and now you're doing it on a more national scale with college football and college basketball. I'm interested to know, are there pros and cons to doing one or the other? Is there one that you really like more? Does it affect the way that you view the sports, your fandom, when you cover something from a broader scale like that versus being hyper local with just one team?
Yeah, so the advantage to being on the beat is that you get to sit courtside at the game. Let's just be honest and call it what it is. In particular with the Grizzlies, they're one of the few teams left in the NBA that have the local beat writers courtside. So you're talking, all 41 games, right? I was courtside at FedEx Forum covering the team. So that's cool. Eventually after going to every single game, every practice, every shoot-around, there's some days where you wake up and you just, you need a little bit of a break, but at the end of the day, you're never going to complain about getting paid to sit in the seat where most people pay thousands of dollars, to have the right to sit there. So that's the cool part about being on the beat, is being around the team, being around the court, around the field, whatever sport it is, and having that bird's eye view of really everything that's going on. The advantage, though, to the national stuff is that it's not okay, let's say, for instance, I had to have tweet notifications on for Shams and for Woj, right? Because the reality is they break 95 to 99% of NBA stories. And like I had my moments, like right where I would get something first or like have a minor scoop or whatever, but those are rare. And you pretty much are beholden to what the national guys report because of the way the media landscape is built. And so you have to be ready to drop whatever you're doing at the blink of an eye when you're the beat writer to go out and do something real quick, do a story real quick, whatever. It doesn't matter if you're at your anniversary dinner. It doesn't matter if you're at church on Sunday morning. Like, you just have to, like, that's just part of it. And that wears on you over time, especially covering the NBA, which is really a year-round sport now because of free agency, summer league, all of it. And so that's a downside to it. But then the upshot, I guess, to the national level is that there are other people. Like, if some big-time transfer commits and I'm unavailable, there's somebody else who can write it. You know what I mean? It's not always on me. So that's a nice perk, I guess, is that you don't feel like you're always on the clock as much when you're doing it from the national perspective.
Have you ever had to write a story on your phone?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I've emailed stories from my phone. I mean, so back before every phone had hotspot, like probably 6-7 years ago, I mean, I would regularly file stories from McDonald's. So when I was covering Tennessee, I was on my way back from covering the Tennessee-Missouri game in 2017. And that's a long drive. That is a really long drive. So anyway, but there's no easy way to fly from Knoxville to Columbia, Missouri. So anyway, I was driving back to Knoxville when Butch Jones got fired, and I was in like Carbondale, Illinois or something. So I had to stop. I stopped and worked at the Panera in Carbondale for like 2 hours.
To work.
Right, exactly. And then, I drove I ended up crashing with family in Paducah that night because I got, so far behind on my journey back. But yeah, that's the life of a beat writer, I guess.
Last question for David Cobb. It's another personal one, David. I'm bombarding you with personal questions now. You should check out what David Cobb is doing. Follow him on Twitter at David W. Cobb, and check out what he's writing at CBSSports.com. Like I said, his latest thing is about the college basketball transfer rankings. He's updated those multiple times in the offseason. Continue to check in on what he's doing. My last question for you, David. Has your work in sports, both at the local level and the national level, have you become cynical at all about the sports you cover, maybe your sports fandom, or maybe the reverence that we hold coaches at a certain level? Have you become cynical at all the sports, or do you still love it as much as ever?
Yeah, no, I think what it's done is, well, no, I still love sports. I want to be clear about that. But you do get a different perspective on it. Like, I was covering Tennessee as a student when the things began to transpire that ultimately led to a Title IX lawsuit against the university that they had to settle out of court for millions of dollars. There was a black guy on the athletic department, on the university, and on Butch Jones, who was the head coach implicated in a lot of it. And I was a student covering some of that when they tried to initially cover a lot of it up. And that stuff will jade you towards collegiate athletics as an enterprise, because you see how far they're willing to go to protect a multi-million-dollar enterprise. And that's not something that you ever really have to think about when you're a casual fan. And so, yeah, there's stuff like that does sort of make you cynical towards it. But I do still love it. I particularly appreciate that. Let's say, for instance, golf. I don't ever want to have to cover golf because I like to enjoy it as a fan. I just like to watch it and I like to play it. And I know if I ever have to cover it, maybe I'll start to lose some of that enjoyment factor in it. But no, I mean, there's no way. The day you stop loving sports, go do something else, because you can make as much money or more money doing something else and have more normal hours and have normal passions outside of work. And if you start to resent or dislike sports while you're working in it, probably time to go do something else.
Well, I hope that never happens to you, David, but you do have experience talking to the Secretary of Education under Barack Obama, so you have experience at least in other avenues of news at this point.
Yes.
David, thank you so much for talking to us today. Follow David on Twitter at David W. Cobb. Read what he's doing at CBSSports.com. Do you have anything you want to promote that's coming up this week?
No, we just added some guys to our college sports team, though, so more coverage than ever from the college sports side at CBS, although, I mean, we're kind of in the downtime right now. But, transfer portal stuff. That's my big thing with college basketball right now. And then starting to get more and more into college football. We're kind of slowly creeping up on college football season and whatnot. So we got plenty of stuff going on.
I look forward to your deep dive into the University of Miami and Coach Mario Cristobal coming up later.
I'm doing an ACC story later this week, and there'll be something on Miami in there. I'm not sure you're going to like it, Jay, but you at least want to read it.
Well, I do. I just want to be informed, good or bad, Dave. It doesn't matter. David Cobb with us. Thanks so much again, David.
Thanks, David.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
David Cobb, CBSSports.com. When we come back, we're going to do something totally different.
Broadcasting from the Family Leisure Studio, we are Sports 56 and 98.5 FM.
The Showboats are back in Memphis.
We can't wait to have you for the USFL.
Let's go. Get your seats now for this weekend's home game.
Here we go.
Be a part of the new era of pro football at Simmons Bank Liberty Stadium as the Showboats seek to reclaim their USFL legacy. Tickets start at just $10, so bring the whole family. And don't miss the Showboats' exciting matchup.
It's a touchdown!
Buy your tickets today at theusfl.com.
Some people ask me why we don't put the phone number for Sunrise on these commercials, and I'll tell you why. You're driving a car. Pretty much everyone hearing one of these commercials for Sunrise on Jefferson or Sunrise on Poplar are behind the wheel and have no business taking down a phone number for the best breakfast and lunch restaurants in Memphis. So I'll give you something you can find easy to remember. Sunrise901.com. Just go to sunrise901.com. You can see all the menus, merchandise, and every other thing you need to know about Sunrise.
My friend and I are taking a trip to Mexico this year, but neither of us speak Spanish. So we downloaded Babbel and started learning Spanish fast.
Want to start getting conversational in another language? In as little as 3 weeks, Babbel's quick 10-minute lessons were designed by language experts to be the most efficient and effective way to learn a new language.
¿Cómo te llamas?
¿Cómo te llamas?
Babbel, language for life. Celebrating 10 million subscriptions sold. Now try Babbel for free at Babbel.com. That's Babbel.com.
Looking for a new lawnmower? Golf Cars of Hernando has the Gravely line of zero-turn lawnmowers in stock, and they work on them. Looking for a new golf cart? Golf Cars of Hernando has Yamaha and Star brands of golf carts in stock, and they also service most makes and models of golf cars. Financing is available with applicable credit at Golf Cars of Hernando. Call today, 662-429-1566, 662-429-1566. Golf Cars of Hernando.
Now you want to get nuts? Come on, let's get nuts.
Now back to Sports 56 Happy Hour on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM. Here once again, Johnny Radio.
Everybody that talks about basketball, and even the big media conglomerates that cover sports, everybody's talking about Dillon Brooks.
Everybody.
I can't even get on Twitter without seeing Dillon Brooks stuff, and I have most of the local stuff.
It's like the
blocked.
It's like the big NBA news of the day.
It's the news of the day.
Yeah.
And it's crazy. Not just a Memphis story. That's what everybody's talking about right now is Dillon Brooks. And maybe he made himself a big story with what he was saying on the big stage of the playoffs, especially against a team like the Lakers. But, it seems like he's the big story of the day right now. Certainly something going on with Dillon Brooks. And we'll just have to see what happens moving forward. I think a lot of the fan base, though, is not sad to see him go.
No, it seems like a lot of people think that this could be an opportunity for an upgrade. So maybe some people, I saw DeMichael Cole wrote a story. I wasn't able to read the story during the break, but it said that this could have been, or maybe he has sources that say that this was all around Dillon Brooks wanting a bigger role and that the Grizzlies couldn't offer him that bigger role.
I could believe that.
Yeah.
I've thought for a while that Dillon Brooks would be. See, the problem is offensively, Dillon Brooks is tailor-made to be a sixth man.
Yeah.
A volume shooter that you don't have to worry about if you bring him in with a second unit about the shots he's getting up, because you know he can make shots in high volume and take them in high volume, take good shots at high volume at that. The problem is he's one of the 3, 4, 5 best defenders in the NBA.
Right.
And that kind of player is not one that you want to play spot minutes. And one night he might play 35, 40 minutes. Right. One night he might play 19. He's too good on defense to have that be a discrepancy.
And it's hard to kind of balance both of those together. Well, and DeMichael pointed back to what he said during his exit interview about how he felt like he was just being used as a 3-and-D guy, and that he's more than a 3-and-D guy.
Which is not his offensive role. Yeah. He's more than capable of doing a lot more than that on offense. And you might say, well, look at his percentages in the playoffs, but those are all based on him taking 10 3-pointers. Shots, by the way, that Taylor Jenkins has given voice to, told him to take. And I would have told him to take them too. Yes. Not that anyone cares what my basketball ideas are, but I would have told him to take those shots too.
Yeah.
So I don't think, and I think, I'll say this too. I think if you would have told him not to take those shots, you don't know anything about basketball. I'll say that absolutely 100%.
Well, especially
now, if you don't want him on the team because he's taking those shots, then you can have that opinion. Sure. But the idea that he should be on the team and not take those shots, you're an idiot. He should be.
Well, and especially, I mean, even if you need to be convinced about it, I mean, like how tight the Lakers were guarding Desmond Bane and then Luke Kennard. I mean, him being open with those shots, you got to take him. You can't pass him up. And with Dillon Brooks, he's a guy that is comfortable taking shots and a high volume of those shots, and I think that's kind of valuable in a sense.
And it's shown proficiency for it when other players that don't have a more significant role based on the makeup of the team, like when Ja's out and a lot of the, and maybe I can't remember if Desmond was out of game. There's some games where Dillon was clearly the guy taking the volume shots in the game, and he does it well. He's a great mid-range scorer, gets to the elbow and scores well. I think he finishes well around the rim, and he finishes well with a foot in the paint.
Yeah.
He could be that volume scorer, much like you would expect a volume shooting sixth man to be.
Yeah.
Problem is, he's way too good on defense to just be limited to that role, and that's the catch-22 you have to deal with.
Yeah.
Maybe a team that has an influx of guards could deal with that. It goes back to why D'Anthony Melton would have been a good addition to this year's makeup of the Grizzlies, albeit Steven Adams not on the court. It maybe rears its ugly head a bit more, but to have that to go back and forth with where you're not losing that much on the defensive end and still gaining that three-point shooting of they're leaving this guy open, that would have been a good thing. But when Dillon has to be on the court because they can't live defensively with Luke Kennard on the floor for long periods of time, except for Game 5 in the series was the only game we saw that. And I only think that worked because it was an adjustment that was made without any precedent in the middle of the game. Much like Chris Paul going down last night, which we'll talk about later. Chris Paul going down greatly affected the Suns' offense. Two great scorers in Devin Booker and Kevin Durant could not score the ball without Chris Paul on the floor to deliver those things.
That's a good point.
So sometimes those things that happen in the middle of a game can make the game wonky and affect it in significant ways.
Right.
Are Devin Booker and Kevin Durant not going to shoot well next game because Chris Paul's not there? Probably not. Because they know exactly the type of shots they're going to be taking and getting going into the game. And I would say that's the same thing if Luke Kennard had been healthy and that last game, and the Grizzlies had gone back to that the next game, and the Lakers had already experienced it once in the middle of the game and been able to prepare schematically
Probably
for
a
it.
little different.
I think it would be very different. And so I think those are factors you have to think about here. All I know is I think Dillon Brooks, teams are going to be signing up to sign him this offseason. When we come back, we're going to talk about the Met Gala last night next.
Moving is stressful, but Black Tie Moving can take the worry out of the process. Whether you're moving across town or across country, moving your home or your office, your personal moving concierge from Black Tie Moving will work with you to design a plan that perfectly fits your budget and needs. And they're available 24/7 to answer any questions you have. Give Black Tie Moving a call at 901-316-6196 or go to blacktiemoving.com/Memphis to get your personal, no-obligation quote from the moving experts at Black Tie Moving.
Wendy's $3 breakfast deal is a bacon or sausage egg croissant plus small seasoned potatoes for $3. It's the breakfast that don't miss. So if you did miss Wendy's breakfast, don't imagine. Fresh cracked eggs, sizzling sausage, crispy bacon, and block out those hot, buttery, flaky croissants. Croissants don't really make a sound, but if they did, For a breakfast that don't miss, Wendy's is that breakfast. Choose wisely. Choose Wendy's $3 breakfast deal.
Limited time only. Participating U.S. Wendy's. Select a request $3 breakfast deal to obtain discount. Not valid for a la carte or combo orders.
Do you owe more than $10,000 in back taxes? Good news. There's a new way out. It's called the Fresh Start Initiative. Call U.S. Tax Shield. A+ rated with the BBB. 800-391-5063 for your free consultation. And let U.S. Tax Shield protect you from the IRS.
The following is a message from the future, sent by Jamie from Progressive.
Back in 2023, you could get help from Progressive online, through our mobile app, or over the phone. But here, in the future, you'll be able to chat with us from space. Maybe you're asking, why are you spending time on insurance in space? Shouldn't you be sculpting something out of moon rocks or jumping around with no gravity? Insurance seems more like a back on Earth kind of thing, right? Actually, in the future, space is no big deal. Errands are totally appropriate.
That was a message from the future. Get the help you need today with Progressive. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company, affiliates, and other insurers.
Homer Skelton Hyundai Genesis in Olive Branch has an offer you can't refuse. They will pay you to do business with them if you want luxury. And I'm talking the Genesis G70 car. If you would love to have that kind of new technology, they will give you a $1,000 rebate.
Natural spring water service and no long-term contracts. What an easy choice. Call Jeff Manus today, 901-382-2363, or visit arctic-clear.com. Arctic Clear Bottled Water. Call now, 382-2363. That's 382-2363.
We are Sports 56, WHBQ Memphis, and W253DF Memphis. Flynn Broadcasting Stations.
I have this one little saying, when things get too heavy, just call me helium.
Now, back to Sports 56 Happy Hour on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM. This hour is brought to you by Tito's Vodka. Here once again, Johnny Radio.
You know what this kind of music is, Bryant?
I don't know.
It's runway music.
Oh.
This is the kind of music you would listen to as you watch the models walk down the runway. And there were people on display, celebrities of all kinds of walks of life on display last night at the Metropolitan Museum of New York for Met Gala 2023.
Is that an art museum?
It is.
Okay.
But they come together once a year for fashion.
Right.
And this year, Bryant, they honored the late, great Karl Lagerfeld, who worked for a long time as a designer for Chanel, and he had stops at some other places as well, but a big Chanel guy he was. He also had a cat. So basically, this was usually the theme is like Under the Sea or something like that. This year, the theme was a designer of clothes. So some people wore his designs. It was much more fashion-centric this year, but he also had a pet cat.
Oh.
And so there was a lot of people with the theme of cat.
Interesting.
You ready to get started?
Let's do it.
Met Gala 2023. I'm going to start with the last people to show up. That's Rihanna and A$AP Rocky. By the way,
Rihanna's pregnant.
Rihanna's pregnant. But also, I have visual aids for this segment.
You do?
I printed out all the pictures of the people. So if you're listening on the radio or on your Sports 56 app on the phone, you can pull up pictures of these people as I list them so you can follow along visually.
Play the game
Or if you're watching on YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, Facebook, or any of our other streaming platforms, you can watch, and I'll hold up the pictures for the camera and for Brian Dacus. First up, the last people to arrive, fashionably late they arrived. You think they were high, Bryant?
Maybe.
Rihanna and A$AP Rocky. No, Rihanna couldn't have been high. She's pregnant.
She's pregnant, that's right.
Rihanna and A$AP Rocky.
Is
Rihanna wore, let me describe what it was.
Thank you.
Rihanna wore a white Valentino gown with a long sweeping train, a structured ivory top covered in rosettes, an opera-length fingerless gloves, and a pair of white sunglasses with attached eyelashes.
Wait.
Faux eyelashes, I should
Eyelashes
say.
were connected to the
To the sunglasses.
Okay.
ASAP Rocky wore a Gucci ensemble, a black blazer over a white collared dress shirt, red plaid pleated kilt over bedazzled baggy jeans. Steel-tip square-toed boots as well.
I was going to ask if that was a kilt on top of jeans.
Yes, it's a kilt on top of baggy jeans.
Interesting choice.
What do you think, Bryant?
I think it's an interesting choice. I don't know if I'm a fan of either of them.
I think Rihanna looks like a wedding bouquet.
She does.
But it's also very on theme. When I looked up, because I didn't know...
On theme of what?
Karl Lagerfeld.
Oh.
So if you look up his designs, very flowery. You're going to see flowers are a theme. Also, black and white is a big theme. I thought they killed it. I don't get the kilt. I don't get it.
Either.
I don't get it. It doesn't say what it's an homage to, but the plaid kilt seems very Gucci to me.
Okay.
Next up, Cardi B.
I saw Cardi B's.
Cardi B, I thought looked stunning. She was in a black and white dress.
This is not what I saw from Cardi B.
She wore two outfits. We're getting to that. A black and white dress from Chinese designer Chin Pang. She was sporting a silver wig. This was her second outfit that she went down the red carpet in. Wearing a silver wig. The bottom of the dress was quilted like the classic Chanel purses designed by Lagerfeld. You can kind of see it if you look at the detail. It's hard to see it in the picture just on the screen here in the picture I'm showing you.
Sure.
But you can see that quilted design. Everybody knows the Chanel quilted purse design. Voluminous skirt. It was structured with big black carnations on it. Sleeveless button-down tie, which was inspired by a look of Lagerfeld. Very on theme, I thought. I thought Cardi B killed it, Brian. What do you think?
Well, I'm seeing a trend of the kind of white dress shirts and black ties. So. She looks like a little porcelain doll.
I thought she looked good.
Sure.
You know, sometimes the rap stars, when they show up to the Met Gala, they're not on theme. They're just like, look at me, Larry, trying to weigh hot designer.
Right.
I thought she killed it.
It was very on brand, I guess.
Great
I don't
job.
know what on brand is, but I'm guessing
On
that's
theme.
on brand. On theme, excuse me.
Great job, because on brand for Cardi B would not be on the theme,
That's
I don't
right.
think. She's not generally
You're probably right.
a fashion icon. Next up, Taika Waititi.
I'm sorry, I don't know who this is.
He's a director.
Anything I would know that he directs?
Yes, but that's not the point right now.
Gotcha.
Taika Waititi, when I looked at him with his wife, actually was on theme, but I want to discuss what he's wearing by itself. I can't find the designer. No one wants to take credit for it. Maybe they're not taking credit for it. It was a blazer-style overcoat with a string of pearls, and it looks like white satin pants. I don't get it.
I don't like it.
He doesn't look bad. He wears it fine, but it's just like, what's the theme?
I don't like it.
It's just a gray trench coat, skirt, robe, blazer thing, and you're wearing pearls.
I'm not a fan of it.
I don't like it.
No, I'm not a fan.
I don't get it. I heard some people say thought they were the best. He was the best dressed guy.
I disagree.
Maybe from just a fashion perspective,
Maybe.
doesn't seem to be on theme at all. However, his wife wore this really beautiful black gown, and when they were next to each other, you kind of saw the black and white
Is there
aspects.
is there like an award for like best dressed or anything like that?
Maybe like in publications, but not at the gala
I see.
itself. Some big stars there, though.
Big stars.
The Jenners, Kylie and Kendall, both there. They're not featured in our piece here,
that's too
though.
bad.
Next up, David Byrne. You know who David Byrne is?
I do not. But
he
has
is
a
the lead
bicycle.
singer. Come on, you're spoiling it now. He's the
You're
lead.
holding the picture up.
David Byrne, lead singer of the Talking Heads. He
Not familiar
also
with the
had the
Talking Heads.
feature song that I believe won an Oscar. That's in Everything, Everywhere, All at Once.
Never seen it.
David Byrne looked great. He rode a bicycle with a basket and bell to the gala. Most people take limousines or fancy cars. He rode a bicycle. It, however, is the same suit he wore to the Oscars. It's from a Brooklyn tailor named Martin Greenfield. He also has colorful sneakers on. I cannot figure out what brand they are. It doesn't look like it was mentioned anywhere, but they're colorful. I love it. I love the bike, and I love David Byrne. But this is not on theme at all. It's also an outfit you already wore.
That's what I was about to
To
say.
the Oscars.
Couple points taken off for the
I agree.
rewear.
But the bicycle, though.
Bicycle
great prop.
is nice. I do like that.
There's
different, stands out.
It is one of the two best props that was brought out during the show.
So there's another prop.
And it's coming up right next. Ice Spice. Ice Spice wore a Balmain dress. It's a white gown, and she also had a prop. It was a bedazzled vintage camera. Very cool looking camera. The gown is very beautiful. I thought she looked great. I guess it's technically on theme, being a white Balmain dress, but it seems to be more just like a good looking dress than anything. However, I love the camera. Like I said, that and the bicycle, 2 best props of the night, I thought.
Yeah.
Very understated.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, it seemed to kind of be on theme, but it might just be a white dress. Valiant effort. Your thoughts, Brian?
It's very low key. I
And
like
Ice Spice usually has curly hair in a bun, right?
She changes her hair
She
a lot.
has straight
I've
hair
noticed,
here.
Yes.
I thought she looked great.
I think she looks really good, yeah.
Really good outfit. Now we got a couple men coming up next. We're down the home stretch here, it looks like, okay?
Okay.
Next up is an actor by the name of Ben Platt. Brian, do you know who Ben Platt is?
Not familiar with
He
his
is
work.
in a bunch of stuff. He's in Dear Evan Hansen, the play and the movie. He's also in Pitch Perfect. He plays the weird friend. Have you ever seen Pitch Perfect?
No.
Okay.
But I know the movie.
Ben Platt's in that film, though. Ben Platt wore a Chanel white suit and Christian Louis Vuitton black shoes. He had a chain belt around his waist, and he's sporting a Star of David around his neck. I think he's the best dressed man. Your thoughts?
I like it.
I love
it
it.
a lot.
It's a beautiful white suit. It has like black trimming around. It's a little bit short, but also black trimming around the sleeves. I thought he's the best dressed man. The suit and the shoes are awesome. The jacket is fire. It's on theme.
I like it a
Ben
lot.
Platt's my best dressed man.
I like it a lot.
I love it. Ben Platt looks really good.
Looks really, really stylish.
Really stylish in this one. And it brings me to my worst dressed man.
Oh, wow. So the Met Gala doesn't give best, but you're giving best
I
and
do.
worst.
This is
Gotcha.
my reporting
I like
here.
it. Okay.
Okay? Worst dressed man, Pedro Pascal. You might know Pedro Pascal from the HBO show The Last of Us, based on the video game. He also plays the Mandalorian in The Mandalorian.
Okay.
Pedro Pascal is very famous. You've undoubtedly seen him. He's like one of the biggest movie stars in the world right now.
I've seen that guy.
He's in tons of commercials too. You've absolutely seen the guy. Pedro Pascal, he wore a Valentino designed outfit, a red overcoat, or a trench coat, I don't know what you would call it, with a red button-down shirt and tie, black suit shorts, and lace-up military boots. This one ain't it.
I don't like the. I'm not a fan of the shorts.
Red is not on theme in any way so far we've seen. I just also think the suit shorts are ugly as hell.
Like
it's a dumb thing to wear.
This is almost a little look at me, Larry.
Very look at me, Larry. That's my last note here. Is it made me reconsider Pedro Pascal as an actor and a person. I love him, but I don't like him anymore. What are you wearing,
look at
man?
Me, Larry. He wants all the attention.
It's exactly what people said. Is he was trying to make a buzz on Twitter and the internet, and it comes out. Look at all the stuff we've seen so far. This red stands out like a sore thumb.
Does.
You just look like a buffoon. I don't like it. I think Pedro Pascal, if you're a woman, I will accept you being a little look at me, Larry, because I think some of the gowns you can wear and the
beautiful
the veils go down, very down the stairs or whatever. Pedro Pascal, if you're going to wear that, just put on a regular suit. I mean, I don't want to see that. It's terrible. Bad look.
Yeah.
Bad look. Jack Harlow, he's not mentioned here. Jack Harlow also won like a blue suit, kind of like sweatsuit style. I didn't care for that either.
He avoided the media by telling
did.
everybody he was high.
Is that right? But he doesn't do drugs or drink.
He said he was on shrooms.
Wow.
Supposedly, and nobody wanted to talk to him after that.
But he was lying.
Yes, he just didn't want to talk to you.
He just didn't want to talk
And
to
then I
anybody.
saw somebody jumped, maybe it was A$AP Rocky, like jumped a fence or something to get in, so they didn't have
were
to
late.
talk to paparazzi or something
Maybe
like that.
so. People don't like the paparazzi. You know who the paparazzi was last night, though?
TMZ.
Maybe. But the main reporter I saw interviewing people was Lala Anthony, Carmelo Anthony's ex-wife.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't know she was a reporter.
Neither did I. And then for the Oscars, it was what's the girl's name that's in High School Musical?
Lindsay Lohan?
No, not Lindsay
Hillary
Lohan.
Duff. No.
Not Hillary Duff either. Vanessa Hudgens.
I'm thinking of Sweet Life is actually.
She interviewed people at the Oscars. She was also here last night. Anyway, 2 best dressed women.
Okay.
Easily. First one, Oscar winner Michelle Yeoh. She won Best Actress at the Oscars this year for Everything Everywhere All at Once. She wore a tuxedo-style ball gown designed by Karl Lagerfeld himself.
Wow.
Underlayer had a button-up silhouette, portrait collared neckline, and billowy organza sleeves.
Oh, this is very on brand, or on style.
On theme.
On theme.
Leather boots also adorned with a buckle detail. Well, it is on theme, Bryant, because Karl Lagerfeld designed it himself.
Oh, wow.
So it would be very hard for for something
I guess
he
that's
designed
true.
to not be on theme for something honoring him.
That's fair.
I thought she was stunning.
Mm-hmm.
She was the best dressed woman last night. Your thoughts?
I agree. I mean, I like it a lot.
You haven't seen
Very
all of
nice.
them, but of the ones you've seen,
Of the ones I've seen,
she
she's
looks
my favorite.
absolutely stunning. Michelle Yeoh looks great in that dress. I also thought the second best dressed woman, and a very nice dress as well, came from one Anne Hathaway, star of The Princess Diaries. She's Catwoman in Batman. Everyone knows Anne Hathaway. She wore a Versace white safety pin dress. She was styled by Aaron Walsh of Versace, similar to the black dress Elizabeth Hurley wore in 1994, long fingerless gloves, and a choker. I love it. It's like an optical illusion, sort of, with the way it's like safety pinned together, but it's clearly not just safety pinned together. It's like a very elegant dress. I loved it. I thought she looked unbelievable. I think the dress looks unbelievable, and also I thought it was on theme. Your thoughts, Brian?
I think it's very interesting with the safety pin look, like
gold
you said.
Safety pins, very cool looking.
What's up with the fingerless gloves? It feels like everyone has the fingerless
Everyone
gloves.
loves the fingerless gloves. Very like opera-esque, like you're going to the opera. A lot of people wore them. I don't know what. It's either people wore like tuxedo-style jackets or the fingerless gloves.
Interesting.
It seems like being covered head to toe is a big factor here. All right, 3 of the funniest ones, and these are our last 3 here. Third to last, the funniest woman, easily, Janelle Monáe.
Wow.
She wore a thorn brown outfit, tuxedo suit style, very on theme, with fancy embellishments and a mismatch of patterns. Over a structure at the bottom, the bottom half it's very structured, see-through bottom. She lifted it up, donning a black sequined bikini. I said she looked like a lampshade. I guess the color is there, but it's really not for me. I think she looks like a lampshade. Brian, your thoughts?
I think it's way too much going on for me.
Looks like a lampshade?
Definitely looks like a lampshade.
I wish I had a picture of her lifting up her dress. You can find it on the internet. When she lifts up her dress, she absolutely looks like a lampshade, and she's wearing a bikini underneath. That's Janelle Monáe, the singer. And she's also in Glass Onion and Knives Out Mystery.
Really? Oh, she is. That's where I know her from.
She's a great singer, though. You should check out Janelle Monáe's song.
I think doesn't she sing at one point in the movie?
Maybe.
I think so.
Last two funniest men. Undoubtedly probably seen this. This is Lil Nas X.
Oh.
I'm going to describe this best I can. Lil Nas X.
Please, try.
Lil Nas X is covered face to bottom in diamonds and crystals. He has no skin showing whatsoever. It's a Pat McGrath designed outfit. Called it a modern version of a cat containing thousands of crystals. It contains couture lace from 25 years ago and crystals from Austria. They said he dressed like the man's cat. I guess it kind of looks like a cat. It's definitely very artistic and unique.
Sure.
I think he looks more like a snowflake than a cat.
I think he looks like an alien.
I can't get on board with it. A lot of artists were raving about it yesterday.
I think it'd scare me if I saw it.
He's basically a blank canvas for the designer Pat McGrath.
Interesting.
He spent a long time under there. They said he was very giddy, just donned with diamonds all over his body. Your thoughts, Brian?
Like I said, I think he looks like an alien. I'm not a huge fan of it.
And last but not least is the clown Jared Leto. Talk about a look at me, Larry. Jared Leto dressed like a cat. He dressed like Karl Lagerfeld's cat, Choupette. I don't know if that's how you pronounce the name. But he is dressed like a cat, Choupette, and that's just what it is. It's a giant cat costume. He's a giant cat. There's no designer that has put his name on this or her name on this. He's just dressed like a giant cat. I feel like it's very lazy. You know, like, shout out Lil Nas X. His was like cat themed, but he didn't like technically look like a cat, and it was homage to the man's cat, which I don't really think is on theme either, but I guess kind of. This is just a guy dressed like a cat. Very lazy. Bryant and I could have dressed like a cat and gone to the Met Gala if we wanted to. I think the fashion has to be there. It's not costume week, it's fashion week. Jared Leto, I thought, looked like a clown. Your thoughts?
I've got a question. Is that like does that go on his head? The cat head?
Yeah, I had a picture.
Head?
So to describe, I had a picture of him in the cat costume, but he took the head off so you could see.
I didn't know if that
it was Jared Leto
sitting there on the side.
No, he was holding it because when he walked out there, he was just dressed like a cat.
That's a little disturbing.
I thought it was ridiculous, Bryant. What grade did you like the Met Gala?
Sure. I thought it was for the most part, very elegant. I'll give it a B+.
A B. I thought compared to years past, Bryant, with the theme, I thought this one, because it was a fashion designer, a lot more of the celebrities were on theme than usual, and I think that's a positive. Any last notes, Bryant?
I like the dresses.
What about the suits?
They were, well, except for that red one. I did
Pedro
not like
Pascal.
That one kind of set aside. Seemed like all the ladies were pretty on theme with their dresses. The men on the other side.
Loved it. Great stuff. When we come back, we're going to talk about the MLB slate tonight, and we have to recap the the NBA playoff game from yesterday. Back after this.
We are real sports talk. Sports 56 WHBQ. Available on your radio dial at 560 AM and 98.5 FM, as well as around the world online at sports56whbq.com. Take us with you everywhere by downloading the Sports 56 app. And at home, just say, Alexa, play Sports 56. Wherever you are, stay tuned in to Real Sports Talk. Sports 56 and 98.5 FM.
There's no better time of year for being downtown than May. With all the events going on, you're going to find yourself downtown several times this month. And while you're there, why not treat yourself to the best steak you've ever had? 117 Prime is the premier dining destination downtown, and the star of the show is the steaks. Cooked to perfection over an open flame by people who know one thing above all, how to make the perfect steak. Since you're going to be downtown anyway, make the absolute best of it. Make it 117 Prime.
Anywhere fans go to cheer on their team, there are behind-the-scenes MVPs ensuring everything is game day ready. We see you, Joe, fixing seats so every fan can enjoy every game. And Allie, who keeps her stadium running smoothly from the moment the first game starts to the last play of the season. At Grainger, you're our MVPs, and we're always here for you with supplies and solutions for every industry and 24/7 customer support. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Attorney Joe Cordell.
Divorce forces a father to focus on what's most important, his children. You may no longer be a husband, but you'll always be a dad. In the divorce process, this comes down to three key concerns: physical custody, decision-making, as well as financial support. Each of these is important, and it's important that you choose a lawyer that cares as much about these issues as you do.
Schedule an appointment with one of Cordell & Cordell's Memphis attorneys. 6000 Poplar Avenue, Suite 225, Memphis, Tennessee, 38119. CordellCordell.com.
Nestled in the heart of East Memphis, located corner of Park and Cherry, is a beautiful residential neighborhood. I'm here at Town Village Audubon Park interviewing a new resident, Carolyn. Share with us why you chose Town Village.
Well, if your parents or special friends need to make that big move, let me share with you my experience. It was tough for me to leave home, but then I discovered Town Village. I would like to highly recommend Town Village to you and your loved ones. After looking at all the amenities and meeting all the people and staff, I was hooked. From restaurant, bistro, 3 meals per day, housekeeping, transportation, security, health care, physical therapy, exercise room, and even a heated pool and spa. Come see us and make your new home at Town Village.
Visit us and call Daniel at Town Village Audubon Park at 901-374-7342. There's no place like home, Town Village.
At Jason's Deli, when you're dining in or picking up curbside, you can expect wholesome food and no surprises, just delicious sandwiches, crisp salads, and quick quality meals made with the freshest ingredients and no artificial trans fats, MSG, high fructose corn syrup, or artificial colors and dyes. Around here, a lot of thought goes into what we put into our food and what we take out of it, because you're not just taking a bite, you're getting a taste of who we are. New items are constantly being created to expand our menu for all tastes and special diets with vegan and gluten-free options available. Convenience and on-time delivery you can count on. It's just a click away at jasonsdeli.com, so whether you need to feed 5 people or 5,000, the team at Jason's Deli, they have the credentials and the commitment to keep you satisfied. Freshness is nearby at Jason's Deli, with locations at Ridgeway in the Park Place Center, Poplar and Highland, Germantown Road in Cordova, and on Goodman Road in Olive Branch. Jason's Deli. It's wholesome food and no surprises.
Do you know one of the best things you can do for your employees or family's health? Provide Arctic Clear bottled water. Arctic Clear bottled water is your locally owned and operated bottled water provider. Arctic Clear is 100% natural spring water with free delivery and setup, dependable service, and no long-term contracts. What an easy choice. Call Jeff Manus today, 901-382-2363, or visit arctic-clear.com. Arctic Clear bottled water. Call now, 382-2363. That's 382-2363.
Upgrade your commute at Acura of Memphis. Seize the thrill and test drive one of our award-winning models, each packed with cutting-edge technology, luxurious amenities, and a driving experience that's sure to awaken your inner self. Driving shouldn't be a chore, it should be an adventure. Advance your drive today, shop our aggressive lease and finance options now. Luxury is waiting at Acura of Memphis, or shop online 24/7. Visit AcuraofMemphis.com.
4.9 liter V8, 0 to 60, and I'm about to find out.
Now, back to Sports 56 Happy Hour on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM. This hour is brought to you by Tito's Vodka. Here once again, Johnny Radio.
What a day.
What a day. And it's only just begun.
Don't remind me. A lot of news today, too.
Whew.
With the Dylan Brooks deal going on.
Yeah.
And has there been other breaking news today? Just that?
Nothing as substantial as that, no.
I don't think so either. I felt like I'm forgetting something, but I guess nothing.
Well,
really
Jordan Love agreed to an extension. That was some news.
You're right. I forgot about that. So that's big news, too.
Yeah. Just a 1-year extension.
And by forgot about that, I mean I didn't see that.
You didn't see it. It's okay.
But
I was just thinking of things you could
have
have forgotten
But that's always what people
about.
say
Right.
is when they don't want to appear like they don't know something. It's like, oh, I think I know, but tell me anyway.
That.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
But what happened? How much of an extension was it?
Yeah, I think just a year.
Yeah, it is just a year.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's something else. We got some baseball games tonight. We have to give our bets at the end of the show, and to do that, we sometimes have to talk out our bets.
Mm-hmm.
But because that news of Dylan Brooks broke at the beginning of the show, we haven't really gotten a chance to talk about the two series that went off last night, being that the Nuggets took a 2-0 lead over the Suns at home last night, and the Sixers go on the road to Boston and beat the Celtics, taking over the home court advantage there, winning game one of that series in a big way without Joel Embiid. Not to put you on the spot, did you watch either of these games last night, Brad?
Yeah.
Or were you locked in on hockey? Or I know you said you watched some TV last night. Did you watch
Yeah.
either of these games?
I watched all of the first game.
Sixers and Celtics.
Sixers and Celtics.
With Jim Harden going off.
That was incredible. Did you see what he wore? Everyone was pointing out what he wore to the game.
Yes. Did you think that Jim Harden? I'm so glad you brought that up before we get into any more
Why
about
you
the
calling
game.
him Jim Harden?
Jim Harden?
Jim Harden.
That's his name.
Yeah.
Is it not?
I thought it was James.
Jim is short for James.
Interesting.
Jim Harden.
Jim Harden, okay.
Jim Harden going off last night. He dressed up in a... He looked like... Have you ever seen The Master of Disguise?
Yes.
With Dana Carvey?
Yeah.
And there's one scene where he wears a giant turtle costume, and there's another he dresses in this giant trench coat that's hiding all this stuff underneath. That's what James Harden looked like last night. Do you think James Harden wished or thought he was at the Met Gala?
Ooh, maybe, because it was very, I could see...
And he usually goes. He likes fashion.
Yeah, and it seemed like everybody was like... I feel like in fashion, especially with, a lot of what athletes wear, a lot of, the fans will be like, that's awful. Why is he wearing that? And then, the designers and stuff will be like, oh, that's fashion right there.
Yeah, that's right.
So I feel like...
Like, for instance, Kyle Kuzma's Snuffleupagus long pink sweater that his hands can't reach out of because the sleeves are too long.
Right.
That is one of a kind, extremely expensive fashion.
So
and we all make fun of it.
Last night seemed like the perfect outfit for James Harden. Of everybody was like, "What in the world is he wearing?" And I feel like fashion people were like, "Wow, that is stunning."
I think that's what he would have worn in that gala if the Sixers had been eliminated.
Yeah.
You know who athletes did go?
Russell Westbrook was there. I saw.
Westbrook was there. I didn't use his picture because he wasn't on theme at all. He was just wearing something fashiony. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander was there, a little more on theme. He wore a black very like Native American themed, Oklahoma themed suit. It was good looking. What other athletes were there? Pat Mahomes was there. He and his wife, they weren't dressed anything special. Doesn't matter. Anyway, so James Harden comes up looking like a fashionista.
Yep.
And then drops 45 points. You watched
Incredible.
a little bit of this game, Bryant. Give me all of your thoughts, and I'll piggyback off of those, I guess.
I mean, I was just surprised because we talked a lot.
That's a good discussion prompt, right? Thoughts. Go.
Yeah. I was very surprised with how the 76ers came out offensively because I think we both agreed yesterday that this would probably be the Celtics kind of flexing their defense in this first game, especially early, and that wasn't the case. James Harden came out, and you could tell early that he was a man on a mission without Joel Embiid knocking down shots left and right. So, I mean, I was really surprised with what the 76ers did. I mean, you can just look at the stat sheet, 31, 32, 24 in the third, but then 32 again in the fourth quarter. They were extremely locked in. But even the Celtics came out hot. I mean, I think it was very back and forth in that first quarter. But I was just surprised with how good offensively the 76ers looked without Joel Embiid down there.
Yeah, at first I was a little weirded out that Robert Williams wasn't playing more, but the Celtics won the rebound battle without Embiid on the floor, without even having to play their center more than 20 minutes in the game. And like you just said, it was a shooting exhibition. Both teams shot over 50% in the game. It was unbelievable in that regard. And it really came down to made threes, I thought, by the Sixers down the stretch of that game.
Yeah.
I thought the Celtics were as good as ever. Obviously not, well, maybe not as good as ever. They didn't win the game. But I actually was pleasantly impressed, I guess I should say, by the Celtics.
Yeah.
I even though that was a home loss, I think they easily could have won that game. I have to see the Sixers string together some games where they shoot that high of a percentage, especially against the Celtics. So I wouldn't be overly concerned with that. I would compare it, if you want to compare it to a Grizzlies game in their series, is the game that Xavier Tillman went off defending.
What was that, game 3?
Game 3.
Game 2. Game 2, because it was the game they won, right?
Yeah, maybe game 2. Maybe that's
game
right.
2.
Game 2. Is that right?
Because it was at home. So it
had to be game 2. The two games I would compare it to was when Xavier Tillman played out of his mind game 2. You're right, it was game 2. Defending Anthony Davis, played really well inside, winning rebounding battles, all those different things. And I also compare it to game 5 for the Grizzlies, where literally their best players, everything was clicking on all cylinders, defended well, offensive juggernauts playing well, everything's clicking. I wasn't sure that could be repeated multiple times. Either way, the Xavier Tillman thing or everything clicking on all cylinders, that's kind of how I felt by the Sixers last night. Especially without Joel Embiid on the floor, everything was clicking on all cylinders in a way that I don't think it has all series otherwise, and I'm going to have to see them do it again before I believe the Celtics are going to lose this series.
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, like I said, James Harden just simply couldn't miss, and it was all just kind of like, it just seemed like he was throwing stuff up at times, and it was just falling in. I don't think you see as much of that. I know James Harden is a terrific player. You also had D. Melt come off the bench and knock down 5 threes.
Exactly right. Made 5 threes in the game.
Yeah,
unbelievable bench performance by him. Malcolm Brogdon came off the bench and played well too, as well. But I really thought Robert Williams was going to be a bigger factor in going after Paul Reed. But there just wasn't enough missed shots for it to matter.
Yeah.
There was only like 50-something rebounds combined by both teams in the game. Both teams shot like 55%.
Yeah.
So there just wasn't enough rebounds to be had to where the Celtics could get that distinct advantage by play Robert Williams big minutes.
Yeah, you're right. 38 rebounds for the Celtics, 28 for the 76ers. That's incredible.
66 rebounds in the game.
That's insane.
It's just not a whole lot. So there wasn't a
you'll see
distinct
that
advantage.
in first half in some games.
Yeah, seriously. Well, comparatively, in the other game last night, both teams shot over 40% in this game.
Yeah.
41 rebounds for the Nuggets, 39 for the Suns. That's 80 rebounds in the game. 20 more rebounds almost than took place in the first game.
Yeah.
So I would say that is a outlier of a game. If I just had to guess, I think the Celtics will get back control. I'm not overly concerned about the Celtics losing, even though it was a home game, and now the series has started, right?
Sure, that's right.
Because the team lost at home. Maybe it'll be like the Rangers-Devils series where both teams lose at home to start the series. We'll just have to see about that.
It's too bad.
The Suns and Nuggets, though, I thought was way more interesting of a game, not in terms of I'll just say why I thought it was more interesting. And it all has to do with Nikola Jokic and I guess Chris Paul's injuries, too. Let's start with the Suns. Chris Paul going down, greatly affected
it was huge.
the shooting of Devin Booker and Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant touted as a player that you can just plug into any team and he fits right away because he doesn't need other people to help him score.
Right.
And I agree with that. I think that's true, but you definitely saw the vital role that Chris Paul plays on the team last night because immediately when he went down, the shots quit falling. Durant and Booker combined in the game, they were 24 of 56 from the game, under 50% shooting for the two of them. And also you saw the Suns only score 14 points in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
They just couldn't get going. I credit a lot of that to Chris Paul. Chris Paul, who had 6 assists in the game, and also just works possessions. Even if he doesn't get an assist, the Suns make the most out of every possessions. And as do Chris Paul, because they have so many good players that can score in a variety of different ways, they work the clock, and Chris Paul can probe himself even, just dribble around, waiting for an opportunity. He knows this will be the best shot we can get this possession. And that goes away when he's not on the floor. I thought you saw that be a big factor in the 14 points they only scored in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, for sure. And, I mean, you kind of talked about how what was the number 14 for what? Kevin Durant and
combined, they were 24 or 56.
24 or 56. So, yeah, I mean, and you've seen, especially in the first round, how good Kevin Durant and Devin Booker both were scoring the ball. So I think, you can directly correlate to that Chris Paul injury. Do we know about the Chris Paul injury, about what kind of injury it is?
The way he grabbed his leg, it's a groin strain.
But do we know, like, how bad it is? Will he be able to play anymore in the series?
Not specifically, but I think he's going to be out for a while.
That's
I mean, I just saw the way he grabbed it. That was a significant injury. That could be a huge factor. But I don't think it affects them as much as it does when it happens in the middle of a game.
Because like you said earlier, I mean, they're going to know going into the next game, we're not going to have Chris Paul. We're going to do things differently than having Chris Paul facilitate.
Exactly. And then everything will be orchestrated. Mindset it seems like an insignificant factor, but it is important going in terms of the game plan, the scheme they're going to put together, and making Cameron Payne, I think, more comfortable in a starting role as well. Cameron Payne's going to have to step up in a big way if they're going to be okay here. And then I look at the Nuggets, and I think Jokic is the most interesting factor in this game and in this series, and if he continues to play this way going forward in these playoffs. Jokic is a guy that touts he's won 2 MVPs in no small part due to the triple-doubles he puts up on a seemingly nightly basis, right? He can get 18, 15, and 12. 25, 12, and 12, something like that on any given night. A lot of his triple-doubles come with single-digit shots. He had a game against the Lakers earlier this year where he went 5 for 5 and finished like 16, 15, and 15 or something like that. You know what I mean? And he is just a factor to pass the ball. Last night, instead, what he did, and this is a role I'm really happy to see him do. I'd like to see Sabonis do it. And even though the Heat are winning, I wouldn't mind seeing Bam Adebayo do it too. Jokic took 30 shots last night. He was forcing the issue, forcing shots because he can make them at high percentage. 17 to 30, shot over 50%, shooting a lot of tough fadeaway short corner. Finishing around the rim, but also taking jump shots as well. If he's doing that, only had 5 assists last night, had 39 points, almost 40 points in the game, taking 30 shots. The last 4 games he's taken like 29, 25, 30 shots. That's clearly been a change that he has made or Mike Malone has made for him. It's orchestrated him doing that. It's not just happenstance. He's doing that the last 4 games. And I think you've seen the Nuggets play at a different level when he's done that, because how do you guard Jokic if he's shooting 30 times a game? He's one of the best big man passers. He's a point guard. He facilitates offense for the Nuggets. So what are you going to do? Double a Jokic shooting 30 times?
He's just going to kick it out to somebody.
He is too good a passer, finding, even if it's not his assist, one pass leading to one more or maybe 2 more passes that get an easy bucket. He's too difficult to guard if he's taking 30 shots a game. I don't see how the Suns match up with that. I just don't see it happening. And quite frankly, if we can just assume that the Nuggets win this series, and let's assume the Warriors beat the Lakers. How the hell the Warriors are going to guard that?
Great question.
You can't double him doing that. Draymond might be too small to guard him like that. Your only chance is a like-sized guy that is just as big as he is that can make his life tough. Push him out of the paint. Push him to a spot he's uncomfortable with. But, Ayton might be that guy. I don't think he has those capabilities. I think Joel Embiid could push him out of that area.
Sure.
I think Steven Adams could push him out of that area. But I don't see left in these three teams in the Western Conference anybody who's going to push him out there. Nikola Jokic taking 30 shots a game is a totally different animal by my estimations.
A dangerous guy.
It's unbelievable. And I think it goes back to exactly what we talked about with the Kings and Warriors our last series, watching Sabonis just try to facilitate. He's like looking for guys to pass to on the perimeter. He's like, nobody's guarding him, and he just doesn't face the rim to shoot because he's too hyper-focused on helping his teammates, being that facilitator. Sometimes the best way you can help your teammates
by scoring
is taking 30 shots. Not necessarily making 30 shots, but you have to take them. And that's kind of what I'm talking about with Dylan Brooks. I hear Eric Spoelstra talk about that with his shooting guards and guys that come off the bench. You have to shoot
it.
If you're not making shots, it doesn't matter. You have to fire at will because that makes you a different factor. Something I'd like to see Bam Adebayo do too.
Yeah.
Very different when Jimmy Butler's on your team too. Though.
Oh yeah, that's true. But I mean, but this win is huge for the Nuggets because I think a lot of people starting this playoffs thought the Suns could be a very sneaky team, and going up 2-0 in the first two games is huge.
I agree. Very big. Jamal Murray didn't have a good night. He'll get going again.
But I mean, when you have a guy like Jokic down there, and Jamal Murray doesn't have a good night, and you have him take 30 shots, it's okay. You know, you kind of can live with an outcome like this.
And it's also important to note he didn't take 30 shots because Jamal Murray was struggling.
Right.
That's like 4 games in a row now where Jokic has been forcing the issue in a significant way, and I think it only makes the Nuggets better. Not to take anything away from Jamal Murray, but Jokic doing everything so well. If he's going to take 30 shots, that's deadly. I can't even think of a there's no comparison. I can't think of a comparison. It's like, no, I was going to say it's like Luka taking 30 shots, but it's not. It's totally different. It's way more dangerous. A guy his size taking 30 shots when he has the propensity to pass the way he does. So good to be a good series. There's 2 games going off tonight too, right?
Right. 2. Yep.
What are the 2 going off tonight?
It's
Knicks Heat and Lakers Warriors.
Heat and Lakers Warriors.
What do you think about the Knicks Heat series? We talked about yesterday how much that game would go up. People would be betting on the Knicks. They haven't, Brian.
Really?
It's gone down half a point. The Knicks are favored by 6.5 in that game.
So we liked the what was the bet you liked yesterday?
First half -4 for the Knicks.
The Knicks. So is it still -4?
Yeah, maybe so. Maybe going down a little bit. I'm not sure. And then Lakers Warriors. The Warriors are favored by 4.5 in that game. That should be a good series too.
Should be a really good series. At home, Warriors, maybe like.
I think that series is interesting because I don't know how the Warriors are going to match up with the Lakers. They could literally go either way. Big minutes for Looney and get super physical with Anthony Davis and expose him for not being a center.
I think that's what you should do early.
Or match up with him with Draymond.
Yeah.
And basically make them play small with you.
Right.
If Draymond if the matchup is Draymond and Anthony Davis. Presumably it would be that for the Lakers on defense as well. And Draymond facilitates their offense. So now you're bringing Anthony Davis out on the perimeter. Also could be likely, though, is that they don't guard him on the perimeter.
Right.
Which might make Kevon Looney being on the floor a valuable asset because it draws the attention of Anthony Davis in a different way. So many different ways this series could go. So many different ways the matchup could go.
I think it's going to be a really fun series.
So do I. I still have faith in the Warriors, though.
I mean, they're the champs. I mean, there's no reason not to. They've shown time and time again, as many times as we want to say that it's their dynasty's coming to an end. They just keep winning.
Like
so.
Tom Brady.
That's right.
But I do think the Nuggets have shown me so much over the past 4 games with Jokic being a volume shooter. The Nuggets scare me in a way that I did not expect them to when the playoffs started here. So we'll just have to see what happens.
Knicks -4 tonight for the first half.
Knicks. That's what it was yesterday too. So there you go. We're going to take a little early break here. When we come back, we'll preview some baseball games. I've got some basketball bets. I'm sure we'll find a baseball bet in there. Bets on the other side.
Join the voice of the Tigers, Dave Woloshin, for Wolo and Friends. Weekday mornings from 10 to 11 here on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM.
At Jason's Deli, when you're dining in or picking up curbside, you can expect wholesome food and no surprises, just delicious sandwiches, crisp salads, and quick quality meals made with the freshest ingredients and no artificial trans fats, MSG, high fructose corn syrup, or artificial colors and dyes. Around here, a lot of thought goes into what we put into our food and what we take out of it, because you're not just taking a bite, you're getting a taste of who we are. New items are constantly being created to expand our menu for all tastes and special diets with vegan and gluten-free options available. Convenience and on-time delivery you can count on. It's just a click away at jasonsdeli.com, so whether you need to feed 5 people or 5,000, the team at Jason's Deli, they have the credentials and the commitment to keep you satisfied. Freshness is nearby at Jason's Deli with locations at Ridgeway in the Park Place Center, Poplar and Highland, Germantown Road in Cordova, and on Goodman Road in Olive Branch. Jason's Deli. It's wholesome food and no surprises.
Visit Frontier Western Store today for new shirts and boots. Frontier is your top Carhartt store in the Mid-South. There's thousands of in-stock shirts and jeans. They have the classic K87 pocket tee in every color they make, including new ones just released. Available small to 4X. Want new jeans? Frontier has you covered with super tough work denim by Carhartt. And you've got to check out their selection of Ariat jeans for men, women, and children. You'll love how easy it is to find the size and style you need. Have you seen Frontier's remodeled world-famous boot showroom? It continues to expand. New styles by Ariat just arrived, plus plenty of in-stock proven classics too. Whether you need work or dress boots, trust that Frontier's the place to come. See thousands of pairs of Ariat boots and thousands more by Dan Post, Corral, Durango, Rocky, Twisted X, and others. And Frontier's pricing is lower than online and chain stores, so you know just the local shop to visit. Frontier Western Store, 5880 Goodman Road in Olive Branch, and on the web at frontierwesternstore.com. Locally owned and operated since 1967.
For the ones finding new ways to ensure the job always gets done. For the ones wearing many hats. For the ones who are hands-on, even from far away. And the ones keeping business moving forward. We are Grainger, offering professional-grade industrial supplies, plus real-time product availability and access to experts ready to answer your toughest questions. Call, clickgrainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Simple, smooth, and every sip as easy as the last. Tito's handmade vodka tastes just as good with tap water as it does with your favorite mixer. Back in the day, Tito distilled, hand-bottled, taste-tested, sent to a few friends, then taste-tested again to give you the finest juice around. No frills, no flavors, no fancy labels, just the good stuff. Just Tito's. For recipes, videos, and more, visit Tito'sVodka.com. Distilled and bottled in Austin, Texas, 40% alcohol by volume, namely 80 proof, crafted to be savored responsibly.
Today, I consider myself the luckiest man on the face of the earth.
Now, back to Sports 56 Happy Hour on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM. This hour is brought to you by Tito's Vodka. Here once again, Johnny Radio.
This is the time of year, well, I guess I'm only speaking to a portion of the audience when I say this. This is the time of year where NBA 2K will really inform a lot of people's decisions on player personnel and who they should sign. They need a 3-and-D guy.
That's right.
So that's one thing that the Grizzlies are going to have to get here. It's going to have to be a 3-and-D guy. You see this guy here and this guy here. Gary Trent Jr. is available. This guy's available. Got to have to be a 3-and-D guy. Yeah, because nobody in the league wants a 3-and-D player. So you guys are the only ones.
Great on 2K, though.
I mean, I love a good 3-and-D guy on 2K. Very easy to find a 3-and-D guy on 2K.
Very.
In fact, Dylan Brooks is a 3-and-D guy on 2K.
Is he really?
Well, he can be whatever the hell you want him to be because you get to control all the players.
That's a good point.
So, and if you could shoot a 3 and hit it on the green section, you make a shot.
That's right.
In actuality, what they sign might be a little bit different. I think you need a 3-and-D guy. Who the hell doesn't need a 3-and-D guy, man? This is going to be a unfathomably horrible offseason.
It's going to be a long offseason.
Oh, my God. I'm not looking forward to it. I hate talking seasons for all sports.
Right.
Like the University of Memphis talking season, especially for basketball.
Get the recruits.
I mean, everybody is so excited. Final Four! Tigers are going to the Final Four in basketball this year. Penny Hardaway, I might win Coach of the Year.
Maybe.
They got Rick Stansbury.
That's
Rick
right.
Stansbury gets recruits, Brian.
Mhm.
He gets
He
recruits.
buys them.
He gets recruits. Yeah, nobody's buying recruits anymore. And here comes the Grizzlies off season, which is NBA Finals coming up.
Yep.
They free themselves of Dillon Brooks. He obviously
right.
was holding them back.
Mhm.
We all can agree he was holding them back. The year before, DeAnthony Melton and him held him back. So now that you got rid of Melton and
Got
Brooks,
rid of one last year.
no
the
one's
other
holding you
now.
back anymore.
That's a good
It's a
point.
star-driven league. John, Jaren are the only ones that matter.
That's a great
Who
point.
cares if they can't guard the basketball? It doesn't matter. I'm really just focused on the offensive end of the floor.
Right.
Very excited for the NBA offseason.
I know you are.
Love it.
Gonna be a long one.
Meanwhile, we're going to talk ad nauseum about the Grizzlies offseason, and we're going to cease talking completely about the NBA playoffs until maybe the finals come around. Because my players are greater than your players.
That's right. We don't care about the other games.
Jesus Christ. Now I just got myself worked up, and now I'm pissed off at the end of the show. Brian, do you have any bets for me?
I mean, a couple, but I think we got a lot of really good pitching matchups
If you're a
tonight.
fan of any local team, don't talk to me for like 5
Forever.
months. I don't want to hear you. I don't want to hear
Jeez.
it. Everybody else might want to. I don't want to hear you. Take your fandom and your cockamamie ideas somewhere else. I mean, we're already getting texts blowing us up over the past hour or so. Finally, Dillon Brooks is gone. Good. The Grizzlies will win now. Shut up. Good Lord. All right, go ahead, Brian. You got a bet?
I got one. Tonight, the Seattle Mariners and the Oakland Athletics face off against each other. The Oakland Athletics, they send to the mound Mason Miller. He's 0-1 this year with a 6.48 ERA. On the other side, the Mariners, for some wild reason, decided to call up a guy from Double-A, Bryce Miller, one of their top pitching prospects. He's going to make his MLB debut today in Double-A this year. He's 0-2. And has a over 6.0 ERA. So I don't know why they made this move. They said it wasn't just that you can't just look at wins, losses, and ERA when talking about prospects, and that he has the good stuff to bring him up to the majors now. I like a lot of runs tonight. The Athletics, in their last 4 games, they've put up 7, 7, 2, and 5. The Mariners, on the other hand, can't hit the ball. But maybe against the Oakland Athletics, they'll find a spark. The over-under right now is 8. I like the over in this one.
What about an A's first 5?
See, the only reason is I don't trust Mason Miller, who has a over 6-run ERA.
The bats are going to be awake today.
I think the bats are going to be hot tonight. So maybe like a first 5 over? Maybe. I don't know what that is right now, but I like the game over. If the game over is at 8, I would think the first 5's hovering around like 3 or 4, so I'd maybe take that.
Well, that's as good a bet as any. First of all, I'll start at the top here. The Braves play the Marlins tonight. The Braves just swept the Marlins in Atlanta. Sandy Alcantara on the mound tonight for the Marlins. The Marlins are minus 150 favorites. That's crazy. I'm not going to bet against Sandy Alcantara, but if you want value on the dollar there, the Braves might be the best team in baseball, other than maybe the Rays, but certainly probably the best team in the National League. Plus money on that.
I'd take that.
I like that,
I'd
even
take
against
that,
Sandy.
yeah.
It doesn't really matter to me. My best baseball bet, though, for the day is my guy Graham Ashcraft. I have a significant investment into his success.
Yes, you do.
However, tonight he's going against Michael Wacha, who Michael Wacha is not. He had a good season last year.
He did.
Really getting back to form this year. They're on the road against San Diego. I feel like this is just name recognition for both teams.
Yeah.
The Padres are minus 205 tonight.
That's crazy.
I really don't trust the Reds down the stretch of the game, but I do trust Graham Ashcraft, and I don't trust Michael Wacha.
So maybe a first 5?
I'm getting plus 145 on the money line Reds first 5. That means if they're tied, you get your money back, and you're getting a really good value on that. I like the Reds plus 145 first 5 tonight. You might be able to get a better price somewhere else. I haven't shopped it around.
Yeah.
And then basketball, we talked about this yesterday, Brian. I'm sticking to it today because the line is still there. First half, Knicks minus 4 tonight. I think they're winning at halftime.
Okay.
I think the Knicks win this game tonight, but I'm not comfortable laying the 6.5.
I like it. I don't have a bet for this game, but I do just want to point out a great matchup, great series starting tonight between the Pirates, who are 20-9, and the Rays, who are 23-6 on the season. I know we have a texter who's a big Pirates fan. That could be a really good series.
I wrote that one down as well. I wrote Pirates Rays down. Angels Cardinals starts today.
That's right.
That won't be a good series from either team unless Shohei Ohtani hits like a miraculous home run, or maybe he pitches one game and then everyone loses their minds. I'm not sure how it'll go.
Yeah.
And I also wrote D-backs Rangers starts tonight. I know that seems like it's not a great series, but both of those teams are really good in the lead of both of their divisions. That should be a good series and good pitchers on the mound tonight too.
Yeah.
With Zach Gallen and what's the Gray? Not Josiah Gray because he pitches for the Nationals. What's Gray's name that pitches for the Rangers?
For John Gray.
John Gray. That's right.
Yeah.
And Josh Jung is in top regard for home runs in the MLB. So it should be a good night, Bryant.
Should be. I'm excited about it.
One game you're watching tonight. If you only get to watch one baseball game, what are you watching?
Probably the Cardinals. That's fandom talking, I guess.
Is that right?
Yeah.
I'm going to watch the Marlins. Not to steal beam me up. I'm going to watch the Marlins and the Braves tonight, though. We are gone. We will talk to you again tomorrow.
We're right in the middle of spring, and summer's knocking at the door. And what's that